You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Rocky Mountain Rooftop Network, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Skyler Timmons, and joined here once again, depressed about both of his teams, NFL and MLB, it's Evan Lang.
Well, my mother-loving Green Bay Packers are still at least up on the Lions at time of recording. But yeah, the Broncos and the Rockies both looked pretty bad today. Granted, game's not over when it comes to the Broncos. You know, it's not like they're losing by 1,000,000 points, but offense just looks rusty and disjointed. Defense looks fine. Like, defense has been totally fine, but it's been Bo Nix and the offense that have really struggled to launch. And you know what? That's just like the Rockies. It's the offense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but with the Rockies, it's everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, first game of the season, you can give the Broncos some grace. Rockies, this is game 140-something. They've used up all the grace.
Yeah, there is no more grace.
How long until NHL and NBA start?
About a month.
Can't get
I think
here
the
soon enough.
first preseason game for the Avs is what, the 27th or something?
It's getting there. Getting close.
Let's find out.
Good sports are on the horizon, Evan. And I'm sure the Broncos can have they'll have their moments this season.
Oh yeah, the Broncos will be totally fine this year, I think. I think people do need to temper their expectations. A lot of people going like, ooh, the Broncos are Super Bowl favorites. Oh, the Broncos are going to be scary. And it's like, let's slow the roll a little bit. The Broncos wildly overperformed last year and then got boat raced by the Bills in the playoffs. Like, they were good last year, don't get me wrong. But they're not exactly ready for prime time just yet, I don't think.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. It's year 2.
Yeah, because NFL has to help Travis Kelce plan his wedding around the Super Bowl. The halftime show instead will just be him getting
Will
married
be
to Taylor
the
Swift.
wedding ceremony.
Yeah, will be the wedding ceremony at halftime. Sponsored by Pepsi. Now that's a Super Bowl halftime performance.
Sweet, delicious Pepsi.
Sure. But, yeah, fun stuff. But, hey, it's that time of year, all the other sports getting around, so folks will be directing their attention to the Broncos, everybody else. But not us. We still have to continue on with the Rockies in what was another interesting week. But real quick, Evan, September rosters expanded. Rockies didn't do a whole lot with the expansion. Drew Romo was called up, but we'll talk more about the catching situation a little bit, but he's up with the roster. Finally made his first at bat, struck out. But he's up. They had also initially called up Ryan Rollison, but then he was, I believe, optioned again, Evan, for I'm going to butcher his name, Roansy Contreras. Roansy?
Roansy, I think?
Roansy Contreras, who they picked up off waivers from the Baltimore Orioles. He's also made his first appearance. It did not go well. But then again, didn't hit his defense. The defense did not help him very much.
That is true.
But, yeah, so not a whole lot. It's pretty much the same 26-man roster with just 2 extra guys on it. Really,
yeah,
one
especially,
extra guy.
Yeah. Rollison's already sent back down, and Romo, we figure is just not going to be playing that much. So
yeah, he's just here for the vibes. Not the Rocky Mountain vibes, just the vibes.
Hey, he probably has time to go catch a Vibes game.
Yeah, probably. And their season is over, Evan.
They is it?
Playoffs this week. I don't know if the Vibes made it.
Probably not. Who knows?
There's no way of knowing, he says while broadcasting on Google.
You look it up.
On a Google browser. But, Pioneer League Baseball. We've got Rockies baseball to talk about, Evan. And this first segment, let's talk about Kyle Freeland. The Colorado kid hotly debated on some message boards to a particular website that we are a part of, and just in general. He's Evan. Why does it seem like Kyle Freeland's such a polarizing figure among Rockies fans?
I think there's a lot of different reasons why. First, you had the flash of potential in 2018 that he just never really lived up to. I think that still leaves a bad taste in plenty of people's mouths.
Yeah.
Fourth place in Cy Young voting in 2018, and then has been just kind of okay at best the rest of the way, which, there's room for in a rotation. But, the Rockies put the expectation that he was going to be this homegrown ace or whatever, and he's not.
Yeah.
I think secondly, it's that he does have a temper. He wears his feelings on his sleeve, and a lot of people think that he does not really pitch well enough to justify those kinds of outbursts. And he does have them. He'll stare down an ump or give a dirty look to somebody or whatever. But at the end of the day, he never really has lived up to the expectations that were put upon him as, the hometown kid, homegrown first round pick. He's going to be the ace of the Rockies. This is how we figured out pitching at altitude, is we have this kid who grew up in Colorado, pitched in Colorado, and it's just, I think outside of that, he hasn't really justified the contract that he's on. He's on a very large contract that hasn't exactly aged well.
Yeah.
You can say that for a bunch of guys in the Rockies right now, but for Kyle in particular, he's being paid a decent sum of money, and his performance doesn't really back it up.
Yeah, and that's all like kind of the fair stuff when you look at it performance-wise. Like, yeah, there's reason to be upset with it because we saw the highs of what he could be in 2018 of, oh my goodness, is a legit ace, as the guy that starts the wild card game and puts in a phenomenal performance against the Chicago Cubs. And, the team messed with it. He messed with mechanics, other stuff, and just fell off a cliff. It was just such a night and day difference between 2018 into 2019. He gets optioned at one point because he needs to go work on some things in AAA. And then overall, it's just kind of been mid, so to speak. Just, it hasn't been like absolutely awful. He's had stretches when he's been absolutely awful, but then he's also had stretches like, okay, he's on a little good stretch. It all averages out like pretty average guy and everything, average pitcher at the end of the day.
He goes through these stretches of just being the exact same guy every season, where 2019, the year they messed with his mechanics and threw everything off, and he was terrible. But then 2020, 2021, and 2022, he was basically the same guy. A 4.33 ERA in 2 seasons, and then a 4.53 in the last. And then the last 3 seasons, 2023, 2024, and this season, 2025, he's had a ERA hovering around 5, and has looked like the same pitcher and all of those things. And just, he's Kyle Freeland.
Yeah.
He is a major league pitcher. Like, I would argue he belongs on a big league roster, but he should not be expected or called upon to bolster the rotation to be the ace, because he's not. And it's very clear at this point that that is not who he is ever going to be. He's 32 years old now. He'll be 33 next season, and that's just kind of where we're at. And will Kyle Freeland be on this team next season? Yes. Barring a absolutely shocking trade, Kyle Freeland will be in the rotation next year. That's just how it's going to be. But they need to, and I don't know if the Rockies are still doing this or not, but it's the same as Ryan McMahon, where it's like every single year with Ryan McMahon, we were going, this is the year he breaks out. This is the year he shows us who he was always meant to be. And it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. And it's the same with Kyle, where at this point we are far enough removed from 2018 to view it as a fluke. It was a good fluke. It was a fun and exciting fluke, but a fluke nonetheless.
Yeah. Yeah, where he hasn't cracked above 2.5 WAR in any season since 2018. Where he had 3.4 in 2017 as a rookie, then 7.8 the next year in 2018. We saw the highs of it, and then, nope, as the Rockies are wont to do, of, well, he's a homegrown kid, he's a Colorado kid, let's sign him to that extension, because remember, it was waiting on like the arbitration, and they're like, oh man, what are we going to do? Like, what's going to happen with Kyle Freeland? Here's a big contract to keep you around. And this kind of the next thing that seems like, I think we talked about where people were like, he cares too much. Especially about the Colorado Rockies, he cares too much. And I counter that, Evan. Why shouldn't he care?
Yeah. The thing with Kyle is we see more often, because it is more visible, the negative aspects of a guy who wears his feelings on his sleeve. And that is when he is in game and things inevitably go bad, because let's face it, the Rockies are bad, and he gets frustrated and he gets upset. But, you know, the guys in the clubhouse, manager Warren Schaefer, his teammates all say he's a good teammate, he's a good leader, he's a good mentor, he cares very deeply about everybody in that clubhouse, even if, you know, sometimes he, gets mad at one of his teammates when they make a boneheaded mistake.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's tougher because the fans don't see what's going on in the clubhouse. They see him jawing, they see him, you know, giving the death glare to the umpire. They see him breaking a light in the dugout or something like that.
And I thought about this because we were going to talk about this, and he's a lot like Happy Gilmore in a sense, where at the very beginning of the Happy Gilmore, he's like a really quick fuse. He's quick to turn on somebody, he's beating the kid on the head with the hammer. But like he says, he's always quick to turn around and apologize.
I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean it.
Yeah, it brings back the piece of cake. He's giving the kid the thing, or his girlfriend at the beginning. That's a lot like I think of Kyle Freeland, because he breaks that light. No, he comes back, he fixes it and all that stuff. No, he does something where he gets mad, you know, and then we'll hear, oh, he immediately went and apologized. And no, he takes ownership for the things that he does. And I'm not going to fault the guy for having emotions on the field. Like, he's a competitor. Any of these players, some just more composed than others. That's fine. It takes all sorts. No, but I'm never going to fault him. And he doesn't let it carry over into like performance a lot of the time. But we only, like you said, we only ever see him in doing his job at work. We don't see him in the leisures of what he's doing in the dugout or in the clubhouse. On start days, it's Kyle Freeland go time. And yeah, he's intense. I'm not going to fault him for that. You know, I like that he cares. I've always appreciated that about Kyle Freeland. He cares about the Rockies. This is his hometown team. He gets to play for them. He wants them to do well. And so, of course, you know, if either of anybody was in his position of pitching for this team, you're struggling yourself, the team is struggling as a whole, of course you're going to have some emotions and outbursts and things that come out because you're just frustrated with a lot of things. And that's okay. That's life, that's baseball, all kinds of things.
The big thing is that, and most of the time it doesn't, you can't let it hurt the team.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, this last week we had an instance where it hurt the team, where against the San Francisco Giants in the first inning, Kyle Freeland gives up a home run to Rafael Devers, who took his darn sweet time getting to first base. He admired that thing for quite a minute. And Kyle Freeland comes out, he starts drawing at Devers, Devers starts drawing back at Kyle Freeland, and honestly, that was probably going to be the most of it until the whole situation exploded. Matt Chapman comes in and he shoves Freeland, and then the clubhouse is empty, and then it turns into a whole big kerfuffle, but Kyle Freeland ultimately is ejected as being the instigator of the situation, which technically he was. But also ejected were Willie Adames and Matt Chapman, who were the more physical in the whole fracas. But at the end of the day, by being ejected, by letting his emotions get the better of him there, Kyle Freeland hurt the team. And Warren Schaefer said that in the post-game interview, is that by having to go to the bullpen 8 pitches in, Kyle hurt the team. And Kyle admitted it in his post-game interview, said, I hurt the team, I hurt the bullpen pretty badly tonight. And, you know, he tipped his cap to the bullpen for keeping things relatively under control for the rest of the game, all things considered, getting them through the rest of the way. But Kyle, unfortunately, he was still clearly pretty hot after the game, didn't exactly endear himself when he was on camera, in my opinion, because he's talking about, how he felt disrespected and how it was, Daver's fault. He said, I found it extremely disrespectful to show me up like that in the first inning after hitting a home run. Standing there, watching it, taking your sweet time getting down to first base. I just found it extremely disrespectful, and I felt the need to let him know about that. And the thing with that is like, if it had just stuck to jawing, I don't think it would have been a problem. But the situation did escalate, and ultimately it was started by Freeland taking it personally that Rafael Devers, pimped his home run that Kyle Freeland gave up just 8 pitches in.
Yeah. And I get where Freeland's coming from, because, he could talk about that it's a situation in the first inning, a 2-run homer. Like, yeah, Devers, you don't need to pimp that home run. If it was a bigger situation, yeah, it's perfectly fine. And I think Kyle even talks about that, mentioned that too. But so I get where Freeland's coming from with it, where it's in his home ballpark too, his home, and here's Devers blasting a home run, a 2-run homer in the first inning. Just run the bases, and Devers instead. Maybe Devers was starting down the line, but Devers is notoriously pretty slow, so maybe he was running and Freeland just thought he... But you can understand where Freeland's coming from, and I don't fault him for any of that. I care. It's the thing where Devers, he's a hothead. You've got Freeland, he's a hothead, and so Devers could have just kept running and leave it there.
Yeah,
but
and Freeland
he stumbled.
Could have.
Yeah.
And Freeland could have swallowed his pride on that as well.
Yeah.
I just gave up a 2-run home run in the first inning. That's on me. Because ultimately, it is. I love Kyle Freeland. I love the guy. But you don't want a guy to pimp his home run in the first inning. Don't give up a home run in the first inning.
Or it's don't, you just yell him, start running down the bases and then get your ball and go back to the mound. Devers can say whatever and then just run the bases. Boom, we're done. There might be a kerfuffle at home plate, but whatever. It's always when the bench is clear and they come run out, and that kind of escalates everything, because you got bodies everywhere and everybody's doing all this kind of stuff.
And it got worse than it should have been.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it really should have just been jawing.
Yeah,
and when Matt Chapman rushed Kyle Freeland like that, and then Willy Adames kept, re-escalating the situation after it kept diffusing. Freeland says that Devers shoved him as well. But the 3 ejections were Freeland, Adames, and Chapman. And Devers played on. Chapman was suspended, but then appealed his suspension, so he played in the next game. And that was not fun. He took that real personal. But ultimately, I think it was also a point of just tensions boiling over again, because and maybe it was because Kyle got ejected so early on, maybe it was some other stuff going on, but the whole morale for the rest of that game was pretty off. You had Brenton Doyle spike his helmet multiple times. You had a bunch of people looking, pissed off and miserable. And unfortunately, that's just what the vibe was like. And whether it was due to something else, or tensions being boiled over, or if it was because Freeland getting ejected, or if Freeland got ejected because his personal tensions boiled over. But it's just not what you like to see.
Yeah, but then, on the side of that is that the team rallies behind him. And I think that's always the big thing, is that the Rockies as a team, they like Kyle Freeland. In that clubhouse, like you mentioned, Warren Schaefer said no after that meeting, and Freeland owns up to it, explains the reasoning, because Schaefer, I just wanted to understand everything. Now when Schaefer comes up, yeah, I fully support him, 100%, behind him. And that's what you need. But don't... That's what I think is always important. The team rallies behind him. And, he's got his manager behind him. They pick him up, and it lights a spark in that team. And they see, the veteran guys, even in the midst of a 120-loss season, here's Kyle Freeland 9 years in. He still cares that much about just the game. And yeah, whatever Logan Webb, he runs his mouth all out, whatever. These grown men are so petty sometimes.
Yeah.
On both sides, and Freeland included. Everybody's just so petty. You're playing a children's game, my goodness. And getting paid millions to do it, oftentimes. But the fact that the whole team rallies behind him, that he cares this much 9 years in, it's like when Jake Cave just blew up on that umpire last year. Like these guys that care. I'm not going to fault them for caring. That's good. Because then we see, Evan, what he does in his next start. I know this segment's running a little long, so we'll wrap this up real quick. But he went out and just absolutely carved up the San Diego Padres.
Yeah, I would say his second best start of his entire career. The first one being that near no-hitter against the White Sox those many years ago. You know, he went out, he struck out 10, tying his career high. 8 shutout innings, only 2 hits, no walks. He dazzled. He looked completely dialed in. And I think part of it was, you know, I'm willing to bet that Schaefer had a talk with him after that last game or before this one and said, hey man, you hurt the team last time. Let's dial it the F in. Let's get this done. And I think Kyle Freeland was also like, man, I hurt the team last time. I got to dial the F in and get this done. And that's exactly what he did. And he was phenomenal.
Yeah. No better way. He only threw 8 pitches his first outing. He throws 8 scoreless his next outing on 2 days, on quote unquote 2 days rest.
Yeah. And he's the second Rockies pitcher in franchise history to throw 8 or more shutout innings and have 10 or more strikeouts since John Gray in 2016.
Yeah, like awesome stuff. And at the end of the day, it's good that Kyle Freeland cares. If I have to choose, I want a guy that go out there to compete and cares about what happens to the Colorado Rockies. I'm glad Kyle Freeland does.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of guys on this team. A lot of guys who get a lot of grief. Even guys like Orlando Arcia and Kyle Farmer is, at the very least, they care. They very clearly care.
Yeah.
And it's one thing for Kyle Freeland, who's been here for 9 seasons, to care, but for guys who have only been here for less than a year to care, that I think shows the buy-in of the clubhouse culture under Warren Schaefer right now.
Yeah. And under Kyle Freeland, who's been a leader in that clubhouse for years. Now, he's probably the pitching leader, so to speak, and then he's etched into the record books with the franchise and career starts, all that stuff. Guy who's bought in and is a lifer. It's good that he cares. And so, folks, that would be my plea. Don't get hung up on the dumb, small things. That play when he throws a ball to first base that was too hard to Alaris Montero. Watch that play again. It's pretty harmless.
It was also 2 years ago.
Yeah. Or it was a year ago.
Almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Whatever. Kyle has done a lot of dumb stuff. But he's also gone out there and pitched his butt off time and time again, even though it was to mixed results.
Yeah. Cares, and he pleaded with the fans, hang with us earlier this season. Like, it's a guy who cares. I want a guy who cares in my corner playing for my team. Good old Kyle Freeland. We are Kyle Freeland guys.
I am a Kyle Freeland guy.
That contract wasn't a good idea.
No, it was not.
But
there's the thing. There's a difference between supporting the guy and supporting the player and acknowledging that contract was not a good idea.
Yeah. I'm glad Kyle got his bag.
But then again, think of all the other generational bag getters in professional sports, like Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Who is that one? That one quarterback. He played for the Rams. He played for the Eagles. Oh gosh, what's his name? I'm never going to remember now, but yeah. Sports, people in sports get their bag.
Yeah, and good on him. But that'll conclude this segment on Kyle Freeland. When we come back, it's Hunter Goodman time here on Affected by Altitude. Welcome back here to Affected by Altitude. Skyler and Evan talk about Kyle Freeland caring a lot. Well, here's another guy who's showed out how much he cares this season. It's old Hunter Goodman, who is in his first full season as the primary catcher for the Colorado Rockies, has gone above and beyond and put in a phenomenal season. He is currently pretty much the Rockies MVP, all-star season, and added on to it, Evan, where he hit his 29th home run on Saturday, which gives him the Rockies franchise record for home runs in a season by a primary catcher, with 29 beating Willeen Rosario's 28 that he set as a rookie in 2012.
I believe he has also, at this point, surpassed the number of base hits and number of RBIs all time by the primary catcher in Rockies franchise history. He is, without a doubt, having the best season by a Rockies catcher ever. And it's a season that the Rockies have, it's a position that the Rockies have struggled with immensely throughout their entire existence. I mean, the previous best season, wins above replacement wise, was 2008 with Chris Iannetta with 3.2 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference. And, that was 15 years ago. That was almost 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been, lots of revolving door at catcher, lots of guys who are really good at one thing, but not really good at the other. So you had Tony Wolters, very good defensive catcher, but not a very good hitter. I feel comfortable saying that. You had Willeen Rosario, who could mash dingers, but wasn't a great situational hitter, and was, without a doubt, one of the worst defensive catchers I've ever seen. If the universal DH had existed back then, Willeen Rosario would have had a much longer career, because he had no real defensive position. He was not a good catcher. He couldn't play first base, but he could mash.
Mm-hmm.
But for Hunter Goodman this year, for him to have as good of a season as he's having in his really first full professional or collegiate season, first full season in general of being only a catcher and then DH on his off days, has, I think, really been impressive, especially when you consider, again, that it is his first season, because has his defense been the best? No. Has it been solid enough for a guy who's never been the primary backstop before? Honestly, yeah. And he has things to work on. His arm, especially pop time, throwing out the runners, controlling the run game, very much in need of work. But his framing has been solid. His overall corralling of the ball behind home plate and general defense has been solid. And pretty much every pitcher that has worked with him has praised his ability to call the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's people have listened to this podcast where I've been at with Hunter Goodman, where he had a lot to prove still. And that was at the plate. Can he be consistent enough at the plate? And then can the defense, there's a lot still left to show on defense. And yeah, is he the greatest catcher in the world? No. But is he an active detriment to the team overall behind the dish? No, not even close to it. I was looking at the Baseball Savant pages, and it's pretty baseline. Framing runs, it's 0. No pop time, it's fine. All that stuff, it's pretty average catcher, maybe a little below average catcher, but he's not an active detriment to the team, which, hey, at the end of the day, that's all you need out of a catcher, especially as we get further along with, framing's going to kind of probably get taken out of the game a little bit with the ABS system and all that whatnot. So he's done a lot, but I think, Evan, the thing that I've liked the most offensively that he has shown me this year is that it was consistent. It wasn't like a lot of other guys, like a Ryan McMahon, who's really hot for 2 months, and then it's just a whole lot of nothing. It's been a pretty steady consistency throughout the year for Goodman, and that's what can, give you a little more hope that it can be sustainable beyond this season. That he won't just be a one-hit wonder in a blip in 2025, but that he can take these offensive tendencies and carry them into the next year. There hasn't been really a drop-off with his offense. Yeah, everybody's going to have a couple slumps in there, but he's been consistent from day one to now here in September, it's been consistent.
Pretty much every month he's hit at least 260 with some home runs. His worst month by batting average on base percentage is probably July, where he hit 236 and was on base 286, but he still hit 5 home runs during that stretch. And then August, he was back up to hitting in the 260s with an on base percentage over 3 and still hitting home runs. It's been a really, like you said, it's consistency where, yeah, he goes through cold stretches because every big league batter is going to have a cold stretch. There is no batter on this earth that isn't going to slump for at least a couple days. But for him to continue being as good as he has been throughout the whole season, and, he really has been the Rockies' best offensive player. And you combine that with his perfectly cromulent defense, where he's not hurting anybody with his work behind the plate, and that's how you get a guy who is currently leading the team in wins above replacement, who is currently going to be probably the team's MVP and is putting together the team's, best season by a player at that position. And there were a lot of doubters for Hunter Goodman, and I don't know if I would say I was a doubter perchance, but I had my questions on whether he could be, I thought that he could be a big league player, but whether he could be an everyday big league catcher, whether he could continue to hit very well, because last year especially, he was a little bit streaky, but last year especially was another one of those seasons where he didn't really get consistent playing time. And he has gone out and showed that you play me every day, I'm going to contribute every day. Mm-hmm. And I know there's been a lot of frustration directed towards Warren Schaefer for the regularity with which he keeps Goodman out of the lineup, where often on the series finale, Goodman just doesn't play. He's not the DH. He's not the catcher. He gets a day off his feet, usually at the end of the week. But he still has ended up playing some of the most games in a Rockies uniform this year of anybody else on the team. And he's still been one of the best players on the team. And I think it's worth pointing out that for Hunter Goodman, who has played, yes, the second most games on the team behind Jordan Beck. So Beck's got 127, Goody's got 124. Is being the catcher is incredibly physically demanding. It's a tough position to play. And Schaefer's been very clear. It's like, I want to get him those extra days off because of it being such a physically demanding position, because I want him to be able to get some rest, and we don't want to ride him into the ground when he's been so important for us.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to take care of your players. That's why you have a backup catcher, why you have guys on the team, and Goodman needs that. Now, he's gotten better on those days when he's not catching Evan, because that was the thing we've always talked about, where it's like, the dude's got to learn how to hit when he's not the catcher. And it's gotten a little better as of now as the DH. He's hitting 242, 319, 371, just 2 home runs. Yeah, not great numbers in 34 games as the DH. Those could be better, but as a catcher, like we've seen that, he's hitting over 300 when he's behind the dish, 25 homers. Like, you look at his numbers just when he's as a catcher, you're like, dang, those are some really good numbers. That then,
and I think it's because of that he's probably going to be this team's primary catcher moving forward.
Yeah, for however long they can ride that. Because he's 25, so you've got plenty of years with him, healthy years, at least 5 that you could get good years, Goodman years.
Yeah, he's going to be the team's starting catcher in 2026.
Yeah, and hey, he's earned that, and that kind of brings up then, okay, well then, if you're going to stick with him, he's proved, okay, you can, if he can keep that up, that'll always be the concern, is will this be a flash pan? Because we've seen it so much, Evan, with players. Nolan Jones, what happened with him? I was go back to the Tyler Colvin effect, where, oh man, the revelation, guy's really good this year, and then just drops off a cliff the next year. And we've seen a lot over the last couple of years with guys on these teams. So you're hoping, and I think there's a little bit more confidence I have with the way Goodman's played this whole season, that he could continue it forward into next year, which is great. Okay, you've solved that catcher spot. Good on him. He hopefully continues to improve on the defensive side of things, because he is far from a finished product there. But there's still things he can improve on there. But as long as the bat continues on, you'll take it. Which brings up the question of who's the backup? Oh, Braxton Fulford has been there. It's been awful. Then
he's had his moments.
Yeah. So what do you do with the backup to supplement Hunter Goodman?
I do think at least what makes it easier is that there's much less of a crazy log jam at catcher. Whereas, in previous years when we're like, well, who are you going to turn to for the outfield, or who are you going to turn to for this? There's really only the three catchers right now. It is Goodman, Romo, and Fulford. And the next best catcher is in high A in Cole Messina. And he's not particularly close to being major league ready. So that gives you time to figure it out between these three guys. And if you go with, all right, well, Goodman's our starting catcher, well, then it's between Fulford and Romo. And Romo has one at bat this season at the big league level, versus Fulford's been since Austin Nola left, primary backup catcher, hitting every third day, occasionally DHing. And for Fulford, it's complicated because there's been a lot to like, but he's also not been amazing. But at the same time, how much of that can you chalk up to, well, he's not getting consistent playing time because he's the backup. And he doesn't really have a secondary position. He is a straight up catcher. He's played first base once in his professional career, and he played like 5 games at third base at Texas Tech. So it's unlike Goodman last year where they could kind of spread him around a little bit. There's really nowhere you can spread Braxton Fulford to get him additional playing time. And you're not going to give him Hunter Goodman's reps because Hunter Goodman is your starting catcher.
Yeah. Backup catcher is weird because it's just like a backup quarterback in the NFL. Or like, how much are you expecting out of the backup? Like, how do you fill that position? Because, yeah, it's like you'd love for your backup catcher to come in and be amazing every time. But you said the playing time's inconsistent. It's mostly the number one goal is you're just there to fill in for the guy. Do what you can. If we'll get offense out of you, great. But at least be a good defender. And that's mostly what you need out of a backup catcher. Unless he, because do the Rockies, Evan, have we seen any like batteries that always meet up together? It doesn't seem like the Rockies have really done that much over the last several years of, no, it was like Austin Barnes or whatever with Clayton Kershaw type thing. Where like every day you can slot in this guy at catcher when this guy's pitching. The Rockies don't seem to be doing that.
You see it every now and then. I know Ryan Feltner preferred to throw to Jacob Stallings because they had kind of like a mentor relationship going on where, Stallings had helped him a lot over last season in, getting his head on right and trying to figure things out. But no, not really. The Rockies don't really do that.
Yeah. So it's how do you fill that role? How is it best suited? Type of thing, and what's the right type of guy? That's like an Austin Nola. That's why those guys get jobs still. So I'm just confused there because I would like Drew Romo to get a chance, but it doesn't seem like he's going to get that one this month, where they just called him up to quote basically he's here to learn. What is he here to learn about though?
Yeah, and that was frustrating me when Warren Schaefer said that is he's here to learn how do you learn by not playing? And it really makes me wonder where Romo's future is with the organization, because as of right now, he's still quite young. Remember that we drafted him out of high school, but it's Hunter Goodman with his grip firmly on that starting position. And until Hunter, it's his to lose, and it's Hunter Goodman's got to lose it for someone else to get it. And with Drew Romo, it's hard to know what he can do to even do that when he's not getting playing time. And when he does get playing time, he I'm sorry, big league wise, hasn't been particularly impressive in the very limited sample size that he's had. Now in AAA, he's shown flashes of growth and development, and is still a pretty solid defensive catcher. But I just worry a little bit that maybe that window has closed for Drew Romo.
Yeah, he needs the type of thing that why Goodman was able to do. Is Goodman got the playing time and got the opportunity, and we've seen what he can do. And it's hard now because he's doing it in the spot that Drew Romo needs to do it in, and he's not going to get the same opportunity, which is it's kind of frustrating. Friend of the show, like we want him to do well, but
I think for Romo, probably the worst thing that could have happened was him getting hurt this spring training. When in the first minor league game of spring training, sliding in, he broke one of his fingers, and that kept him out until like May. To like mid to late May. And what that did was it gave Braxton Fulford the starting role. And Braxton Fulford did really, really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with him, but good on Hunter Goodman. At the baseline, a phenomenal season for him, and to see where he ends up. He wants to get over 30. That's his goal. He's on the cusp with a couple weeks left to go, so I think he can do it.
I think he gets to 30. I mean, I think that much is easy to say, but it's just how much further than 30 he goes.
It would be the first 30 home run season, Evan, since
2019?
Nolan Arenado's since 2019 with Nolan Arenado at 42.
Man, that 2019 season was so weird.
Mm-hmm.
We had three All-Stars, a losing record. And it was the last time the offense was really pretty good.
Yeah. And even then, that offense was still kind of like bad.
Incredibly streaky.
Yeah, awful on the road. Absolutely awful on the road. But hey, looks like we got the catcher for the foreseeable future, so that's good.
Yeah, just 8 other positions to figure out.
Mm-hmm. But we'll take a break now, and when we come back, a little debate on what to do with some pitching situations. So don't go anywhere. Plenty left to go here on Affected by Altitude. Welcome back here on Affected by Altitude. Skyler and Evan, and closing things out, we've talked about Freeland, talked about Goodman, but now there's another aspect is McCade Brown, who's been up. He's now made 3 major league starts, has not looked good. He has struggled quite a bit. He's been hit hard. He has struggled with his command, making that jump from Double-A, and Evan, it doesn't look like that he's been quite ready for that jump. He's struggled to adjust after a phenomenal minor league season. Has not looked crisp in his 3 starts.
It was already a tall order. It's the heaviest workload he's had since he got his Tommy John surgery in 2023. And he's, of course, it's a big, big step being called directly up from Double-A to Major League Baseball. And he's been playing against strong competition as well. I would say probably the easiest assignment that he had was against the Pirates when he made his debut, and he still did not have a good time against them. And to me, what it's just saying is, and there's no problem with it, is McCade Brown not ready. He was not ready for this jump at this time in the season, and there's nothing wrong with that. Especially with his limited workload. He needed to be added to the 40-man roster anyway. Because he was, he's going to be Rule 5 eligible, I believe. But at the end of the day, he's struggled. And that raises so many questions of, we've still got 3 weeks to go in this season. What are we going to do about the rotation?
Yeah. Because it's already that rotation's been hurt. Senzatella has been moved to the bullpen. We got Ronacy Contreras, who's been a starter, but it looks like they want to use him in the bullpen as well. And now Anthony Molina is mostly still just a reliever for the Rockies, despite being a starter in the minors. So your current big league options, because your rotation has already struggled as well with Dollander and Marquez has struggled. Freeland's had his moments. Even Tanner Gordon, he's had good stretches, but he's also had bad performance. So much consistency and questions about that rotation. Is McCade Brown best served still trying to work through things at the big league level, or should the Rockies do something else to get a different look in there?
Yeah, and the problem is with McCade Brown is if you shut him down now, his season is basically over because the AA season is essentially over. It's got like a week left. And the AAA season's pretty close to an end. He'll maybe get 1 or 2 more starts if you option him to Albuquerque. If you option him to Albuquerque, he'll get essentially the same workload as he's got staying up here. So if that's the case, then why not just keep him up here? And it's tough because do you want to, especially when the Rockies have a very difficult schedule the rest of the way, keep throwing this kid out there for something that he is not ready for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's it's tough to figure out because you probably the point you're at in the season, it doesn't matter. You can try to roll him out there still and find something out, and then, well, he's not really in our plans. We'll have to DFA him after this season so we can make room for somebody else type thing. No, but that seems like they're committed to it, but is it worthwhile to give him those, however many starts are left for him, or better served to let somebody else come up and maybe at least make one start before season's end, which they could definitely do before the season's end, let somebody try to make their debut. But I don't know, it's that tough spot like you're mentioning with where we're at in the season, the minor league seasons, plus the big league team. It's a weird lining up where it's like, well, what do you do with Brown in place of Brown if you don't want to go roll with him anymore?
Yeah, because you still got to limp your way through the end of the season no matter what you do.
Yeah. So that kind of brings up, well, if you want to move away from him, who would you bring up? And Bradley Blaylock probably would be like a notable one, but I think they kind of want him to finish out the minor league season there. He's had his flashes with the big league team, but you kind of have the question. So it's like, well, if we want to go with another debut to get a leg up on somebody, kind of falls down to, well, do you bring up Sean Sullivan or do you bring up Gabriel Hughes? Do one of them come up and make like 1 to 2 starts before the end of the season at some point? Maybe.
I would say, at the very least, I'll start with Sean Sullivan and say, absolutely not. Sean Sullivan, who missed the start of the season recovering from hip surgery, has been phenomenal throughout most of the season with AA Hartford, but you can tell by watching him pitch over his last 2 starts that he is starting to get gassed. His fastball velocity is way down. He had a pretty rough outing his last time out, and I think you're at the point where you don't want to make him jump all the way from AA to the big leagues to make 1 or 2 starts when he looks out of gas. So there's nothing wrong with that. He's almost matched. He's about 15 innings short of his most professional innings pitched last year, which was 115, and he's at 100 right now. And so for Sullivan, I think you have him finish the season in AA, and then he's done. He's shut down for the year. And honestly, and this is where, Skyler, I think you and I will disagree, is I'm kind of saying the same thing for Gabriel Hughes, who is still pitching very well in AAA. Had another very solid outing just this week. But at the same time, now Gabriel Hughes has far exceeded his highest workload he's ever done in professional baseball. Keep in mind he missed most of 2024. In 2023, he only had 14 starts, and this year he's at 20-something starts across 3 different levels. He's almost at 100 innings, and for Hughes, it's the same thing. That fastball velocity is way down, but he's been able to work with it because he's a very cerebral, very crafty pitcher, and he's been able to work through some of those struggles. But I don't want to expend what little energy he has left on just a handful, 1 or 2 big league starts where, a 90 mile per hour fastball, if he's not getting the life to it he needs, is going to get obliterated. And that's what we saw with Carson Palmquist, that low velocity fastball, if you can't place it just right, if you don't get the life that you need on it just so, you're going to get crushed.
Yeah, but I feel like I see the value in calling up Hughes because, well, you're going to have to get him on there anyway. But he's kind of in that same boat. McCade Brown missed all of 2023 and majority of 24, recovering from Tommy John. So he's not that far ahead of where Hughes is health-wise. Where this season, 2025, is really both of their first full healthy season, so to speak, from Tommy John surgery. And, Hughes has shown that he can do it down in AAA. And so he's higher up on the level, higher pedigree of a starter. And I think he's a guy who has a chance to crack the rotation at a spring training. Why not give him a chance, even if it's just one? I would give him one start at the very least. I would like to see Hughes even just make one start to give him a taste of that big league experience, get that out of the way, so then he can hit 2025 or hit 2026 on the ground running, hit the ground running, give him a little bit of a leg up. Because I don't think there's any harm in calling up Hughes to give him even just one start to see, okay, get it out of the way, get those nerves, you can get experience. And I think with Hughes, as we've talked to him and learned about, he's a very cerebral guy. He's a smart, crafty guy who has talked about learning how to pitch. And I think that's something with Hughes that he has a leg up on a lot of these other pitchers we've seen is he's a very methodical, intellectual type that can attack hitters. And we're seeing how he's learning how to do that in AAA, where he's gone from, I'm not just going to go up and throw it hard. I can pull back. I don't have to throw all my gas. No, he could probably reach back and still get to his top level. But even then, he's going to be a little bit smarter, work on precision, hitting his spots. And so I think that would be valuable for him just to get that big league experience of taking that next step. And really how great that would be for where he could end 2025 is on a big league mound with the Rockies. Because he's a guy who really can fit in nicely with this rotation.
I think what makes it tricky even more so, and this is both for Sullivan and Hughes, is that right now they are probably the most likely candidates to be breaking camp with the big league roster next year, correct?
Probably, yeah.
And so if you're going to have them fighting for a rotation spot next year, then why not give them the extra week or two that the end of the minor league season has in terms of recovery and ensure that they are in tip-top shape when it comes to the start of spring training next year. Because what's interesting is we've seen them be very careful with workloads with some of their young pitchers. We've seen it with Brody Brecht. We've seen it with Jordy Vargas. We've seen it with Jackson Cox, of guys who have been kind of treated with the kid gloves in terms of workload management, especially Jackson Cox coming off of Tommy John surgery like the rest of these guys. The tail end of the season, we haven't really seen that with Sullivan and with Hughes. They've just been grip it and rip it. Go out there and do your stuff. And I just wonder if at some point you do need to evaluate shutting them down, not because they're not pitching well, but just because it's an arm health kind of thing. And I don't know. I am probably being overly cautious. And I think part of it is because I do think that right now Gabriel Hughes should be on the opening day rotation next year, regardless of what happens to finish out this year. I think with where we are at, where there are already going to be open spots, I think you give one of those open spots to Hughes, who I think has proved he is ready for it. But I also don't want to risk him, overtaxing himself or getting hurt or anything like that throughout the rest of this season just to make a big league debut, because we've seen that before. Not with pitchers, but it just makes me think about Zach Veen, who has now multiple times pushed through injuries more than he should have because he wanted to try and get to the bigs.
But I think the difference with that, though, is that Hughes hasn't shown any indication that he's trying to pitch through injury and stuff. No, when he gets hurt, he goes down, recovers, and he's back and he's doing his thing. No, he's overcome the Tommy John. Now, he's checked all those boxes, and he's looked healthy aside from whatever injury it was he dealt with earlier.
He had a minor shoulder impingement.
Yeah, and those are always like, it can be serious, but it didn't look like it was that serious for him.
They're also not uncommon in pitchers recovering from Tommy John, additional shoulder and elbow stuff as you're returning from that. We saw it with Armand earlier this year, where all of a sudden you're pitching a full workload after, being shut down for the better part of a year, and your arm's not used to it. You get the swelling, you get the bursitis. It's not uncommon.
Yeah. So, but every time he's come back and he looks perfectly fine and does his thing, it's I don't think there's much harm in, like I keep saying, just one start and just get him that leg up. Sullivan, it's a little different. He's had a little bit more. And again, he's down in Double-A, whereas Hughes is knocking on the door. He's kind of for real, next guy up. Logical next step for him. Why have him finish out in Triple-A when, hey, we could use him, get a good look at him, and get a leg up on the next year? No. They don't have to do it, but I don't think there's much harm in having him come up and do his thing. Even if it's hey, Gabriel, we're calling you up. We just wanted to give you that good luck. You're going to try to go 3 innings, 4 innings, and then we're going to go from there. We've got Antonio Senzatello who's going to piggyback off of you.
Yeah, because on the other side of it is there's really not a whole lot of other options.
Yeah.
I mean, you can call up, there are guys that you can add to the 40-man roster like Xavier Curry, who the Rockies picked up on a minor league deal. And I'm sorry, not to fault the guy, but he's been terrible. He was out of affiliated ball entirely for a hot minute.
Yeah.
And his stuff has not played well in Albuquerque, and I don't think it'll play well at altitude. And it's one of those guys where if you call him up, that's your ultimate surrender move of, we just need guys to go out there and eat up innings, results be darned, so that we can make it through the end of the season. And Gabriel Hughes has performed very admirably at the AAA level. He's got a 5.74 ERA in 11 starts, 47 innings. His strikeout stuff is a little down from what we would normally like to see, but he is still somewhat in Tommy John recovery mode. And we saw in the limited amount of time where he was in the Arizona Complex League, his strikeout stuff was working crazy good. But as he's gotten up to face the higher levels of competition, he's faced more difficulties as he tries to find himself in that recovery mode. And at the same time, he's made it work where he's been able to pitch around, not necessarily having his strikeout stuff, but still utilizing, his best stuff, as it were. He's not giving up a crazy amount of hits. He's not giving up a crazy amount of home runs. I mean, he is giving up a lot of hits. He's got a 10.5 hits per 9 with Albuquerque, but he's not often getting wrecked by that. He's been able to navigate. He's been able to work his way through it.
Yeah. And just looking at, his starts in Albuquerque, look at his game logs, his first couple of starts, his first 3 down there, weren't too good. But then, coming back, probably coming back in July, the end of July, and since the end of July, he hasn't been working deep into games. He's pretty much been limited, and that's partly because thrown a more number of pitches, like you're saying. But he's been working, 4, 5 innings, mostly pitching into the 5th, so 4+ innings.
Yeah.
No, you could take that as an end of season start. But yeah, he's giving up a lot of hits. Strikeouts are not quite there, and same with the walks. It's mostly because he's kind of been adapting, and it's stuff like you're saying. If they want to shut it out, that's perfectly fine too. Yeah. Absolutely perfectly fine. Is it there harm in calling him up? No. Is there harm not doing it? No. Either course of action, I think, is fine.
Yeah. And it is, a big part of it is, he has pitched very well since his return from that shoulder impingement, which was July 25th was his first game back. And in, a little over 30 innings, he's got an ERA just barely above 4. He's getting the job done. Though the opposing on-base percentage and slugging percentage against him, not great. .333 on base, .417 slugging, but ultimately he's been able to navigate around that, like I've said.
Yeah. And it's always hard when you're judging pitching in the PCL.
Yeah,
because whether it's at in Albuquerque or wherever else, it's just flying all over the place.
Yeah, they don't call it a launching pad for nothing.
But like those ones at home, yeah, he's been hurt more at home in Albuquerque, but on the road, he's been a little better. Crazy how that works.
It's going to be interesting to see. And, I'll go along with whatever they do. Like you said, there's no harm in shutting him down. And honestly, there really isn't harm in calling him up for 1 or 2 starts to make his debut this year. Especially if it means that you are dedicating yourself to the idea that he's going to be in the rotation next year.
Yeah, if not opening day, but at some point next year type of thing. Which ideally it would just be opening day. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Both good pitchers, and both with a future. It's just a matter of them getting the chance. We'll see. But shout out to our friend of the show, Gabriel Hughes.
Yeah, heck of a season. I'm hoping to see maybe we can get him one last time, but you never know.
Maybe we'll try to schedule him, and then the Rockies will call him up. And
I know, that's happened a lot recently.
Happened with one Seth Halverson last year.
Sorry, guys, we can't let you interview Seth anymore. What? Why not? Because he's on a plane to Colorado.
Dang it. But yeah, fun stuff. But that will do it here for this edition of Affected by Altitude. As always, we appreciate you tuning in along with us, as has been the case throughout the season. Evan, where can the folks find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky at evanlang27.bsky.social. Would love to hear from you. Been getting lots of good engagement on Blue Sky recently. It's been pretty nice. You can also find me over on purplerow.com, writing the Monday Rock Pile and the weekly Pebble Report. Pebble Report about to get interesting as the minor league seasons are starting to wind down. At time of recording, this will be the last game that the Spokane Indians play in 2025. So that'll be interesting to review their season as a whole. Remember that you can find Rocky Mountain Rooftop on all of your favorite podcasting platforms of choice, be that Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Basically, if it has podcasts, we are probably on it. There's also the video version of the show on YouTube. Remember that you can find us on pretty much every social media platform at Rocky Mountain Rooftop. That's at ROCKYMTN Rooftop.
Nice. Find me over on Twitter at Skyler Timmons or on Blue Sky at stimmons13.bsky.social. And writing stuff for Purple Row, Wednesday Rock Piles, and doing stuff for fansfirstsportsnetwork.com. Good stuff. But best of luck to our friends, the Fresno Grizzlies, as they start the playoffs this week.
Versus the San Jose Giants.
Ugh. Gross. But hey, Ethan Holliday's hit his first 2 professional home runs, so
that is true. And the Denver Broncos won.
Hey! Of course they do it when we're not watching.
Now, the Grizzlies had a great turnaround where they started the season pretty rough, and to end the season above 500 and in the playoffs, what a great season for them. Really looking forward to watching them hopefully shellac the San Jose Giants in the playoffs.
Yeah. I love the 2-half playoff format, the division, the playoff people.
Yeah, especially in minor league ball. I think it's the perfect format for minor league baseball.
It's really nice because those rosters are ever changing. Good stuff. But yeah, that'll do it here for this edition of Affected by Altitude. Until next time, I'm Skyler. That's Evan. Hit 'em with it.
Farewell.
Bye-bye.
California, go Grizzlies.
This has been Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast with Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. Catch new episodes every Monday on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well for video versions of the show.